Hey everyone, welcome to another installment from Pro Engineering. We've got a WPL on the workbench, not just a WPL, but a 1/10 scale WPL. For those of you not too familiar with the WPL company, the vast majority of their products are a bit on the smaller size. So they do make some 1/10 scale K vans, but the vast majority of their cars are 1/16 scale or a little smaller than that. Now this here is their first off-road 1/10 scale pickup. And I believe it's going to be based, looking at the image down here, I think it's going to be based on the C series chassis, which is one of my favorites. Some basic information down here. This is the C74. So yes, it is a C series chassis. It does come ready to run with radio and everything. You'll have to supply batteries for the radio. This packaging is a little bit new. Remote is there. It's surprisingly big. It probably doesn't look that big on the camera, but yeah, this is definitely 1/10 scale. Very, very nice. We're going to cut this little guy free. Bunch of straps down here. This looks great. The Suzuki Jimny, or in the United States it was called the Samurai, is not a large vehicle. So to anybody looking at this, and in fact, we'll park it next to a 1/10 scale vehicle. Well, first what we'll do is we'll actually figure out the scale to make sure that it is 1/10 scale, and then we'll park it next to something of similar size. But the Samurai, or Jimny, is a very small vehicle, so it makes sense that parking it on a 16 scale chassis would make it look like a 1/10 scale car. So this, I believe, is a little bit different than what WPL put into the C54. Maybe there's just a little cover for the motor. I like this transmission, although I'm a much bigger fan of the 2-speed. However, it has a monumental amount of ground clearance, which is really, really good. Battery placement in the rear, which is nice. So you see, battery just kind of clips in the back over there. We do have a leaf spring truck, which is great. I think the real one is as well. Oh, servo is mounted to the front axle. Very cool. I don't remember any other WPLs doing that. I can't seem to recall off the top of my head. All seal underneath here, so any mud going underneath the car should stay there. Emblems are already attached, which I'm already trying to figure out how to get off because I obviously want to paint the vehicle. A nice matte finish on this, which I think is also going to be more conducive to primer and paint. A little detail right there, that little hood vent right there. Provisions for turn signals, and it looks like provisions for fog lamps as well, or auxiliary lights. Taillights do also, right, maybe? Yes. The taillights appear to not only have provisions for lights, but there appears to be an entire cover on the rear so that when the lights are installed, you won't see the wiring dangling around. That's outstanding. This is a fake spare tire, which I think is fine because usually you never do anything with it. Let's see what else here. I saw, yeah, there are little license plate holders that snap into the rear and to the front. For some reason, I thought the doors open. No, the doors do not open. Yeah, nothing opens on the vehicle. We do have the vast majority of a full interior. That's really nicely molded seats. You guys see that? That's a nice looking seat. I really like that. Decent details on the dash. Curious what stickers this comes with. This is officially licensed by Suzuki. Let's see if we have a instrument cluster sticker. Oh, we do. Okay, so you've got taillights, turn signals. These looks like the side marker there. That also has a provision for a light. Some Suzuki stickers. Again, you get the cluster, standard fare WPL stickers there. Some little spare goodies, side view mirrors, spare rear spring. This is the charger for the 4-wire battery. So wipers, all the goodies are down here. The side view mirrors have these little, you peel off this side of the tape, this side of this metal. This actually is metal. I dropped it. And then when you've got the mirror in, you've got a genuine mirror. So it's always a nice little touch there. I feel like it's a little bit leany to the right. A little bit leany. That can be fixed by just adding a bit more arch to the spring. God knows what happened to this poor thing in shipping. Oh, you know what it is? It may be this side being too high. I don't know. Okay, that's fixed. I don't know what this little hole on the roof is. Oh, there's a sticker here. Ooh, nice. That's nicely done. Keeps everything scratch-free. Okay, so to open the battery, I thought you had to pull this tab, but you don't. You push this back, and the battery door just kind of swings open. It's pretty deep in there. I thought it was going to be a bit more shallow. So we'll grab this, which is it's kind of embedded in there, but we can still get to it. Okay, so we got that there. What is that? Nothing. All right, we're going to try and shove that in like this. Okay. Closed. Nice snap. As for the remote takes two AA batteries in the back. There's a little screw that holds the door on. This is for safety purposes. It's not safe to have batteries fall out if a child's playing with it. All right, so we'll turn this on. Turn that on. Oh, wait, was it off? Oh, it was already on. Turn it back on. There we go. So these cars are fully proportional. Since we have a front axle mounted servo, we're not going to get that bump steer. So it looks like we do have to adjust a tad. I can't tell. Seems a little better there. No, a little more. Oh yeah, I was actually going to turn all these to the left. Okay, cool. There you go. Steering. I feel like it should have more steering. Oh, it probably will. So we'll max it out, push the steering rate button. Okay. Okay. Throttle weight, same thing. So if we floor it, push the button here, a little faster. You have counter rotating drive shafts there. What's up with this guy? So the remote is very, very, very basic. I've said this many times. They actually have a nice feel. They work really well. You get your one-handed driving. They're still very cheap. You know, functionality-wise, it's all there. I've never had any of these fail on me. Not the greatest remote in the world, but they work really well. So we'll just kind of buzz you around a tad, running over your stuff. With this transmission, with this particular gearing, it's barely fast enough. I'm assuming, of course, because it's the same gear train as the C54. It's barely fast enough to keep up with you walking. But in terms of torque, you know, expect to see a capable trail truck versus a crawler, because it's going to reach a point where it tries to go up something and it won't crawl over it. It'll end up like surging over something that you wanted to go over. Just be aware of that. I would assume that the 2-speed can be finagled in here. You're going to lose a bit of ground clearance, but it should work. You are going to lose the radio. The 2-speed is not compatible with this radio. You can upgrade the radio. In fact, here is the one from, this is one of the higher end ones from the B series 6-wheel drive, to provide you with a bit of a size comparison. So this is the 1/10 scale Jimny compared to the 1/16 scale Land Cruiser. The chassis are extremely similar. Now, I did want to mention that this is the updated chassis. This one here is the original C chassis. The wheel track is a bit greater there, and that's partly a result of these smaller wheels that I put on here. But you can see how much larger the Samurai is, and for any of you who are aware of the girth of a Land Cruiser, you would know how much more gigantic the Land Cruiser is versus the Samurai. So the actual wheelbase of the vehicle is 2,030 millimeters. This one here is about 195, 96 around there. So we're getting 10.3 to 1, which is not bad. So this is pretty close to being 1/10 scale. Now let's find a full-size vehicle 1/10 scale truck and compare it. Okay, I learned something, and that's that none of my cars are 1/10 scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the Jimny or Samurai with some more conventional RC cars that, you know, whose bodies people are a little more familiar with. So what we have here is Project Ted. This is to me, a Blackfoot body. So you can see the Blackfoot has quite a bit more width than this. In terms of its height, they're not all that far apart. This is roughly 1/12 scale, and this is, again, closer to 1/10. So you can imagine that the real one would be significantly bigger than this. In terms of length, if I set the front ends together at the rear, we're looking at between bumper to bumper, a good 100 millimeters of distance is about 4 inches or so. So, you know, a considerable size difference between the Blackfoot. Let's grab something a little bit bigger. I knew the Jimny was here somewhere. Oh, there. Oh my God. Okay. So, I never realized how big the TRX4 was. If you have a TRX4, this is, I think, closer to 1/9 scale, if not a little bit bigger than that. It obviously pales in comparison. Now, this is too big. It's not the same scale as this. But in terms of what kind of look and feel you're going to get, you know, there's the TRX4, and then there is the Jimny. When looking at it like this, it definitely looks small, which it kind of is. So comparing to the rear bumper, you can almost fit another Jimny here in the front. So it's a little guy. There's actually an event on Sunday, and I'm going to bring this to it so we can see how well it does with some actual cars. I took the truck out to Mount Diablo for a drive, and I wasn't intending on making it my primary vehicle, but unfortunately, I lost the servo on the trail finder. So I ended up driving this thing a good hour, hour and a half, and it drove beautifully. I was a little bit surprised at how well it did given how small and top heavy it is. It also does not have particularly low, stuff's falling off, particularly low gearing. I mean, it does have low gearing, but not as low as the 2-speed in first gear would be, but it ran extremely well, and the motor had ample power. I know the WPL C74-1 I found to be a little bit lacking, so I did upgrade that motor, but this one here I thought did beautifully. I don't know if it's a result of the leaf sprung suspension, but it did that kind of axle hop that you would expect a vehicle like this in relatively stock condition to do. Again, it's not very fast, but we were all out there crawling and kind of on a trail, so it was going about as fast as all the other vehicles were. It was by miles the smallest 1/10 scale vehicle. In fact, this was probably the most 1/10 scale vehicle. I will say this, it is leaning, it's hard to tell, but it's leaning slightly that way. And that is because I may or may not have stepped on it on accident. It's bad enough when you don't see somebody else's RC car, but I missed my own. So any issue with the vehicle, I did. Other than that, I loved it. But the question is, do you want one? I think what we're going to see with a lot of these vehicles is people buy the car for the body and toss the underpinnings, not really giving them a chance or thinking that they're just garbage toy grade electronics and mechanicals, and that simply isn't the case. They are rudimentary, basic, and simple, but they are extremely usable. So if you are a first-time driver and you want to drive something outdoors, but you want it a bit on the smaller side, and you want it inexpensive but supremely customizable, this is a wonderful platform because it's very cheap. It's all one bundle. All you need is AA's. And if you do fall in love with the vehicle, you can do a mind-blowing amount of things to this vehicle. So you have a number of options. If you are rather experienced in the hobby, this may be a bit harder of a sell because, again, it is on the small side. If you love Samurais or Jimnys, if you're overseas, it's definitely a good thing to look at, but don't expect the high quality electronics and bearings and all metal, blah, blah, blah. No, remember that this is extremely inexpensive, but you're going to get a heck of a lot of value for money. Even if you're into extremely scale vehicles, I mean, there's not much to do. A detailed paint job, detailed interior, different wheels and tires, some detailing on the grill, and you've got a vehicle that in the right photographs could pass for a real one. I have a lot of plans for this car cosmetically, and I think I've got some ideas on some 3D printed upgrades that I'm very excited about. If you are interested in one of these and do want to pick one up and start driving it, I must recommend some metal drive shafts. I haven't had any issues with these, nor have I had issues with the C74-1, and that one has got tons and tons of packs through it. But this is a typical failure point on these vehicles, and I think they're around $9 for the pair, so highly recommended for that. Otherwise, it's good completely as is. Spare battery packs are very inexpensive, and they're extremely high quality. I have some of these packs going on 5 years, and they work great. Now, this is slightly different. They have a different plug, but they're the same battery manufacturer. So I cannot speak highly enough of the car's electronics. My friends, I hope you enjoyed this video and love this little guy as much as I do. And I'm very excited to start doing some detail work and little customizations very soon. We will see you next time.